Good afternoon to all of you, and I hope I'll be able to wake you up after lunch. It's definitely not a good time to have your presentation just straight after lunch. But anyways, I'll try to make maximum out of it. So thank you very much for the organizers to give me this opportunity to present BASF on this platform, and I hope I'm able to do the justice to that opportunity. Since morning, we have been hearing about the philosophical side of what bioenergy needs to do and how we can be more sustainable, and also a wish list on the policy side is in terms of what government should support on and what they should not support on. Let me now look and cover into the technological part of things. And before that, let me just build a concept with taking you back to basics, what we studied in school about carbon cycle. Okay, there's nothing here. Now, if you look at the carbon cycle, whatever we emit to the natural activities, which is the typical activities that humans and animals do, it's well taken care of by the nature. To put numbers to this, it's like 5 billion tons of emissions that are done through the natural human and animal activities, and nature very well balances itself unless you really change the use of land and other processes in the nature. But where the problem comes from is when you introduce industries and fossil fuels. And that's roughly 42 billion tons of what is actually going into the carbon cycle, which definitely a natural process will not be able to take care of. I mean, to look at it further, 7 billion tons of the carbon actually goes into materials, and 35 billion tons is something which is right now emissions. And that's a huge number for any natural cycle to really take care of. And that is why we believe that just carbon capture may not be a solution. We have to look at it holistically as to how we can replace fossil fuels itself in its various chemicals that are made from it, and then circularity primarily to aid further carbon capture from the environment. Moving on to the next one. So this presentation is more about covering what BASF enables in this ecosystem. I'm from the catalyst business, as you would have seen from my designation. So as a catalyst provider and a technology provider, what is it that BASF is able to offer to enable sustainability? And also, I'll touch on a few things where BASF is leading the initiatives on sustainability as well. From the catalyst portfolio, if I look into, we are able to cover the whole gamut of sustainability, which is either you reduce your carbon footprint or you reduce your emissions, look at chemical recycling or renewable feedstocks. I mean, I'll touch on renewable feedstocks primarily here, which is what the theme of this conference is, which is on biofuels and biorenewables. This is what we call as green map, and a larger version is available behind you as well. Here, the dark green boxes that you see indicate wherever we have been able to convert biomass into various chemicals that can go into replacing fossil fuels. And I would like to draw your attention towards two such things. One is butanediol and other one is ethylene. Now these two are very important chemicals. Ethylene, as we all know, it's one of the backbones of the packaging and the automotive and other industries. And butanediol is something which has got a variety of applications in pharmaceuticals and in polymer industries as well. Now, these two chemicals, through bioroutes, are already successfully demonstrated through our catalytic technologies that we have been able to replace. I'll not get into details of each box of this, and that is available with our colleagues, and we can discuss that in case you are further interested. But sticking to the theme of this conference, I'll talk about more on biofuels, as to how we can enable the conversion of biomass into biofuels, and particularly I will touch upon SAF, which is sustainable aviation fuel. Two routes that are more commercial viable that we see, but there is a whole lot of possibilities to look at. We can reach to biosaf, either converting biomass into carbohydrates, looking into pyrolysis oil through waste cracking. We can also convert it into alcohols like ethanol and methanol, and then take it into higher alcohols. I'd particularly touch on SAF production through ethanol and methanol, and starting with methanol. Now, the question that might come to your mind is, how do we get to methanol first from biomass. And this is where BASF has been able to demonstrate its state-of-art technology, whereby we can tap into biogas as a source, and through dry reforming, we can get into biosyn gas, which can be taken to methanol. And I would like to give slight more details on this. Conventionally, methanol feedstock that you would see would see a CO2 percentage of roughly 3 to 6%. That's what is there in the conventional feedstock. But with the catalytic technology, the first generation that we have launched, which is called a Synspire Vario catalyst, we have been able to take that up to 10%. And we are also working on something which is now known as e-methanol, where you take CO2 straight into methanol, and that would be pure CO2 going into methanol with combination with either blue hydrogen or green hydrogen. So this catalyst that we have is already put into use, and you'll see that in the next slide. It's already operating for last 2 years in one of our own plants. BASF has a number of methanol plants, and we have replaced an incumbent catalyst there with this catalyst, where CO2 is being taken from a nearby plant. And this catalyst has demonstrated long lifetimes to a conventional catalyst under these kind of circumstances, where you have high CO2. It has been very tolerant to the carbon which is formed during the reaction, and has demonstrated excellent thermal stability over the course of its current usage. This is the reactor where it is used. It's roughly 60 tons of catalyst, so it's a big commercial scale plant where the catalyst is currently in operation, and it's been there for last 2 years. And we are looking into at close to 12 to 15% CO2, which is kind of blended along with the feedstock that the catalyst sees. Looking at ethanol here, the key steps here that you would see primarily are ethanol to ethylene. Now, making ethanol from biomass is a very well-known process in India, and that's a fermentation route. But once you get ethanol, how do you get into SAF? So the key steps here would be ethylene and oligomerization steps. Ethanol to ethylene is a commercial step which BASF has already demonstrated successfully, and one of the plants in India is already operating based on that process, where they make bioethylene. The next step is on the oligomerization, where we are currently already developing a catalyst, and we are in an advanced stage to start a pilot on that. And the rest of the stuff is pure standard purification and hydrogenation, which will take you to SAF. Ethanol to ethylene is done over an alumina-based catalyst, and it's primarily a dehydration process. We have there are 3 plants in the world at this point in time which are operating on this catalyst, spread across the globe. 2 of them in Brazil, and 1 of them is in India. And this catalyst has shown a phenomenal stability and selectivity towards ethylene. We can get up to 95 to 98% selectivity towards bioethylene using this catalyst. We have also gone ahead in the development of this catalyst. So the current catalyst that is in use is a ring-shaped catalyst. We are now looking into more of a star-based geometry, which can take the selectivity levels up to 99%. And that is something which will be a breakthrough in this technology, because with 99% ethylene, you can actually take it to polymer-grade ethylene. And polymer-grade ethylene is something which, if it's coming from a biosource, can help us replace a lot of fossil fuel-based ethylene, which is currently in use. Talking about oligomerization, now this is one of the key steps and is one of the most difficult steps that we have seen. It can be easily done using homogeneous catalysts, but that's not something what industry is looking at. What we understood from industry, they're more keen on looking at heterogeneous-based catalysts, and that's where zeolites comes into picture. We have a great understanding on zeolite, where we know the dimensions where we need to pull, whether it needs to be looked into chemical stability of the zeolite, or we need to look into more aromatic production from the zeolite, or we need to look at more thermal stability of the zeolite. And currently, the first generation that is in place, it demonstrates excellent activity towards ethylene oligomerization to higher olefins. We are also working on the second stage, because the first stage is not so stable on the oxygenate side. So we are looking at how we can make it more stable with oxygenates and the thermal stability of the zeolite. We are already at an advanced stage with this zeolite, and most likely we'll be having a pilot plant soon coming up, which will provide us the breakthrough to take ethanol into SAF. So yeah, some of the collaborations that we have already been into. So dry reforming, now as I said, biogas is an excellent feedstock to look into syngas generation, because it has both CH4 and CO2 in it. There's no need to purify in case you look at dry reforming to make syngas. Both CO2 and CH4 will give us 1:1 mole ratio of CO and H2, that is an accident feedstock to be taken along and blended along with green hydrogen to make methanol. So we are already in association with Linde here, but that's not an exclusive association, it's a non-exclusive association there. Glycerin to propanol, this is a process which we have developed to fit into the oleochemical plants. Now, glycerin is something which is available in access in the countries which are nearby to, which are neighboring countries of India, like Malaysia and Indonesia as well. Plus, India also is big on castor oil. So glycerin is something which is, a byproduct of these industries, and taking it into propanol and then taking it into propylene, which is also under development at this point in time with us, solves the problem for bio-PP as well. And then methanol to aviation fuel, we are already working with a consortium here, and once the oligomerization step is in place, we would be able to roll out this process pretty soon. CO2 methanol, already a plant operating, and there is a pilot plant which is working right now on 100% CO2 to be converted into methanol. So that was on how we are able to enable, through our catalytic technologies, some of the solutions on sustainability. And what BASF has been doing, I'll just glance through that. So it was in 1990 that we embarked on this journey. Since 1990, we have doubled the volume of our products, but you can see that we have actually halved our emissions. And one of the things that we have done here is, it's not carbon dioxide capture or anything. We have only looked at NO2 and NOx, N2O and NOx. And that itself, I mean, we all know N2O itself has around 250 times of global warming potential as compared to CO2. Just capturing N2O from our various plants and NOx from various plants has enabled us to reduce our emissions by half and doubling our volume. From here, the aim is to get to net zero by between 2045 to 2050. And looking at the immediate term target, which is 2030, we are looking at roughly around further 25% reduction in the CO2 emissions. Some of the pillars that we are looking into it is either acquiring or generating our own green power. We have already invested in a couple of wind farms in Europe for that. Then looking into generating green steam using green power, and electricity is one of the areas where we are focusing pretty strongly. Then we are also looking into new technologies. A couple of them I have already put on the slides, and you would have recently heard a notification that BASF, Linde, and SABIC together have started an electric steam cracker furnace, where electricity will be sourced as green electricity. Then we are also looking into some of the projects ourselves for carbon capture and storage, and carbon capture and utilization. And yeah, I mean, so a couple of these projects are already in discussions with various collaborators, and also funded by the German government. This is the picture of one of the steam furnaces, where it's an electric furnace. There are two modes of heating that we are looking at, and it's not an easy, though we call it as electric furnace and used for cracking, but designing this and ensuring that it gives optimal conversion to olefins is not an easy task, because you're reaching temperatures of close to 850 degrees centigrade for cracking the paraffins here. We have designed this plant and now successfully commissioned it as well. It is in operation now for almost a month. And as of now, what we understand, it's working as envisaged. The other one that we are working on is in methane pyrolysis. Now, methane pyrolysis is one of the key technologies which gives you only hydrogen and pure carbon. This carbon can be utilized for various purposes, and it can also be looked into battery technologies and integrated with the plants which are making batteries. But the hydrogen that we get is pretty clean out of this. This plant is also under demonstration at this point in time, and hopefully, if this trial run gets successful, we could see some of these rolling out into market as well. And finally, one area where I would like to focus attention, which also ties in with the green map that I showed to you earlier, BASF has embarked and also got it certified, something called as biomass balance approach. In this approach, what we look at is some of the chemicals are taken through the bioroutes, or the feedstock is taken through the bioroute, and we are able to trace it to the end product as to how much component of that feedstock or how much component of that product or intermediate is coming from a bio-based source. This enables us to brand the product in a biomass balance approach as to how much percent of this product is green and how much percent of this product is gray. This approach is already certified by ISCC Plus and Red Cert, and is something which BASF can help also the other industrial players to embark onto. Along with that, we have also looked into product carbon footprint mapping, and we have done mapping of almost 60,000 products of ours that we manufacture, with each of them having its carbon footprint known. That's tool also which we are able to provide to the market players to look into their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions as well. So that was, in a short from our side. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, we'll be willing to take them.
Just another question. You mentioned about ethanol to ethylene. Now, how does the economics work if you take ethane to ethylene and ethanol to ethylene or naphtha to ethylene?
Sure. So here I would like to tell you that, when we talk about economics for these processes, the customers that you will see who will be buying this ethylene will not be the normal customers. For example, today, if I were to ask you, which airlines is the airlines that is using maximum of SAF? I mean, I'm pretty sure it will be very difficult to guess. And that's FedEx, DHL, Blue Dart. These are the kind of people who are using maximum of SAF. Because for them, the incremental amount which goes into using bio routes is justifiable given the end product pricing that they have. Similarly, for bioethylene, today India Glycols is one of the companies which is actually operating based on ethanol to ethylene. They are selling it to companies like Coke. So they use it for making their PET bottles, which you see for standard cold drinks. So economics is a very relative word, in my opinion. If you are going to use this ethylene for typical food packaging, it may not be economical. Right. But if you are going to use it for applications which drive premium out of it, certainly possible.
So you take the carbon pricing also into account for when you have this kind of conversions, the carbon pricing is also taken into account?
Yes, by the user it would be taken into account.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know.
So when you're talking of green energy and green power, okay. So for the industry, I'm talking for the industry. Of course, for other sectors, yes, I agree that small, these things are going on. It will continue. There are a lot of innovations, a lot of research going on. For so far as economics is concerned, I'm talking how soon or what will be the price tag you are going to do for the green power going to the industries or from the domestic consumption, whatever. Thank you very much.
So that's a question that I guess will be very difficult for me to answer, what price tag we can put for energy. But I guess in India, oh sure.
Global warming 1.5 degrees every year means you know what is happening. Basically it is killing many animals in the ocean, and it is reaching a point of no return. So we are looking at some answers so that how quickly we can do a commercial grade of green power so that industries and also they do not start emitting so much of the pollutants in the oceans and all that. So we are thinking that let us make the planet a better place to live with. Thank you.
Sure, sir, your comment very well noted.
Carbon mitigation is $130 trillion job. That's what the various agencies, including UNFCCC, have predicted. So yes, it's economic versus producing green power, but it should happen if we want to protect the planet. Obviously, I mean, it should happen.
Sir, I am proud to share with you, India will be the first country to do because there is a lot of money coming from the foreign investors also, like what you are talking about. So India will be the first country to declare that. Thank you very much.
Sure, sir.
Sir, you discussed about the methane pyrolysis process. So can you explain right now the status of the project? regarding the methane?
So the project is operational now.
Okay, it's a demo scale or
It's a
commercial?
demo scale at this point in time.
Oh, because one of the challenges in that part is the removal of the residual carbon produced after the process. So the producing at the commercial scale is a problem.
So this is where the reactor design is very important, and that is what BASF has worked on.
And the temperature of the reactor?
So that is pretty high, I would say. At this moment, I'll not be
Because
able
the
to
catalyst is going to play a major role to reduce the temperature.
Sure. This is more of a thermal cracking that we are looking at. This is not a catalytic cracking process, which is the methane pyrolysis you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's not a catalytic cracking process. That's more of a thermal cracking process.
Thermal crack.